Hey everyone, it's Joy here and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a really wonderful day. For my project today, I'm using Spellbinders Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the Month for March 2022, and I decided to do an alcohol ink background to go along with that. So I'm starting with a large piece. This will be a 5x7 card, and I have a glass bowl that I'm putting down, and I'm coming in with my Brass Pinata metallic alcohol ink. And then I'm using a Revlon blow dryer that doesn't have the tip on it to dry that in place. Now, this was inspired by this lady on YouTube, and I will have her linked below, but her name is Artfully Abstract by Lori. And I saw her do this and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. And it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Now I'm coming in with 2 colors of alcohol ink and just kind of alternating and just putting little drops there and then just kind of drying it. I'm using Limeade and Everglades. And you need to dry this. This is the important part because we're going to come in and add some alcohol ink droplets at a time and just kind of use the blow dryer to blow it in place. And so we don't want everything to move, so everything needs to be very dry. So I'm just going to finish adding those colors. Again, I'm alternating between Limeade and Everglades, and I already laid down my Brass Pinata. That was my metallic alcohol ink. So you could use any metallic color that you want, but I just lean towards gold. Even though it says brass, it is so gold. So now I'm going to come back in and add more of the Brass Pinata before I lift that bowl and then get it nice and dry. And when I lift the bowl, I am going to be careful because some of that alcohol ink kind of is going to seep under that bowl a little, and I don't want to slide it around. So I'm going to pick it straight up, and then I'm going to bring in that blow dryer and dry it one more time. And then we're going to come in with the alcohol itself and start making, to me, this is a wreath and I wanted to do green leaves. So that's why, obviously, why I'm using the green colors. So I've got my little dropper here of alcohol, and I'm just doing like 1 to 3 drops. There was only 1 and I needed a little bit more. So I think I did 2 to 3 drops. And then I'm just using that blow dryer and I'm just kind of blowing back and forth from side to side. So as you can see, it's moving. This is on the cool setting on this blow dryer. I will link this below as well. I got this from Amazon. This is what the what was her name again? Oh my gosh. Artfully Abstract by Lori. That's what the blow dryer that she used. I had one from previously and it just was warm and I needed the cool air. But a lot of air comes out of this, so you kind of just have to pay attention and just move your hand back and forth as you're trying to keep your alcohol in a certain spot, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to keep going around, and I'm just turning this to the side so that way my arm is not too much in the way. That way you guys can see what I'm doing. So when you drop that alcohol onto the alcohol ink, it's going to pick up some of that color. So it also picks it up nice and soft for the most part, unless you have a ton of ink. You could put more droplets of ink down if you wanted this to be much darker, which you'll see here in a second. I had a huge spot of the Everglades ink here in just a second, and it was really dark and it was a lot, and I kind of had to work at that to fix it a little bit, but it still turned out really, really nice. So I'm going to this is where I was wrong when I added that dot, because I didn't have enough to begin with, and then I added a dot and it was too much, so you can really see, and it was kind of out of control. But I'm just going to dry it, and then I can kind of come back to it and fix that, because now it looks more like a blob than the other things that I would say tend to lend more towards leaves. So I'm just going to kind of move around to the next spot, and then I'm going to come back to that. And when I do, it actually looks really nice. And it works because the alcohol ink is actually dry. And I think that's one of the keys to this, is a lot of times we do it when it's really wet, which is totally fine. But you can also do it after it's dry, which is going to give you very different results, obviously. This little spot was giving me a hard time, but just added a little bit more alcohol and moved it around, and it turned out really, really good. I love this background. I think it is so, so pretty, but you guys need to check out her page because she did one with a ton of colors and a ton of circles, and oh my gosh, it was just absolutely stunning. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. I'm going to add a little dot, and I'm going to start moving this ink around. I'm going to treat that big spot like it's a couple different spots. That way I can get it to look more like leaves. And now as you can see, it's a little bit more separate. It's not just a big giant blob. So it worked out really, really good. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on the inside. I'm gonna do the same thing on the inside. I'm gonna probably be a little more light-handed on the inside. I don't want it crazy busy, but I mean, that's obviously up to you, what you like. And I'm just gonna work around this whole circle. Now, my idea with this was obviously to have the green wreath, and then I'm using the Glimmer Hot Foil kit, which is these beautiful roses, and I'm going to Glimmer Hot Foil those on the specialty cardstock, which is white. And then I'm also going to be using the Aura foil with that. But my idea was to have this kind of white on green look, which I think is obviously beautiful. But I did add a little bit of pink to the background. I don't think that you can tell, not background, excuse me, to the roses with a Copic marker. I don't think that you can tell a lot, but it does add a little something. And obviously I'll show you that in just a little bit. I'm just going to get this wreath finished up. But isn't that so, so pretty? Now I'm going to end up putting the bowl back on and adding some more of that brass piñata because it's kind of lost and you really kind of want that pop of that metallic color, whatever metallic color you decide you want to use. So I'm going to finish up that last little spot there, and then I will bring in that glass bowl. These are just, I've had these glass bowls forever and I have a bunch of different sizes, so this was like the second largest, or the second smallest size. Now I did make sure to dry that, and I'm going to put that back on top. But if I wanted to bring in and add another circle, I would bring obviously the smaller size in of the bowl and lay it on top and do the same drawing, and it would just kind of overlap, doing the same drying and alcohol ink and doing everything exactly the same. It would just overlap, which would be really fun. But obviously I'm just doing a wreath, so I kept it really simple. But now we've got that pop of gold and it looks so, so pretty. So I'm going to make sure that's dry. And then we're going to do some splatter effects. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is so pretty, I don't want to touch it. But I'm so glad I splattered it. So I just have a little bowl and I'm just going to use all the same colors I used on that. A couple drops of that, a little bit of the actual alcohol, a small paintbrush, and I'm just going to splatter away. And I felt like I added a lot, but I think it turned out so beautiful. And I haven't done splatters in forever until just recently. And I think I'll be splattering everything because I forget how pretty it looks. So here is the limeade, a little bit of alcohol, and splattering that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the brass piñata, but I'm not going to add any alcohol to that. I'm going to just do it as is. And I dropped a big drop on there, and I'm going to clean that off with just a wet alcohol moistened paper towel. And I'm just going to kind of dab it just to kind of get that big blob up, which is really awesome. Oh, I did forget to mention, you guys, I'm using a new paper. I am using Office Depot's photo paper. And here's the important part. You're going to use the back side, not the glossy side. It will not work. Use the back side. And this does not stain like Yupo paper. So that is the huge plus for this paper. I think Yupo paper is fantastic, but this paper doesn't stain. So I was able to remove that without it even being an issue. But isn't that so stunning? I love how this turned out. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to get onto the Glimmer Hot Foil. These roses are so beautiful. And like I said, I'm doing it on the Glimmer Specialty Paper from Spellbinders. So I've got, here's that kit. So you have the coordinating dies and your Glimmer Hot Foil plates. I have my Glimmer Hot Foil machine on and it is heating up. Here is that specialty cardstock. I'm going to just put these in place, and I want to tape this down with some low tack tape because I want to make a hinge. I've talked about this before in my foiling videos. You want a hinge because if for some reason it didn't foil properly the first time, you want to be able to lay your image back down and add more foil to it. So I'm just going to put that in place and then tape that behind my cardstock. Then I can lift it up and slide in my foil. Now I'm using the Aura foil, which is my favorite. I know I need to use a different foil at some point, you guys, and I will. I just can't tell you when because I love this stuff so much. I just love I love that it's gold, and I love that it's iridescent. So I'm just gonna cut these pieces up, and it's totally fine if some of this overlaps. It's not gonna be an issue as far as the foiling goes. So I'm just going to lay that in place while my machine is heating up. This is the perfect time to get all of this ready. I'm going to push those back down, and then I will trim off the excess foil that's hanging off over the edge. I needed to trim a little bit of that off because it was too much overlapping. Not that it's an issue, but I just didn't want to have to deal with it. I wanted to make sure that my image would just lay where I need it to lay. So I'm going to fold those over, push them down into place. Then I can trim that edge off, lay this on my machine until it gets all the way hot. And so that button in the middle will turn green when it's actually ready. Then I can push that button on the bottom. That will blink for about a minute, then it'll go solid, and then you're ready to pull that out of the docking station. So here that is. I'm going to push that. That's going to go. When you're done, you pull this out of the docking station. You're going to put your plates and your shims on top. Run it through your die cut machine. I'm using the Platinum 6 die cut machine, and you will just roll it through nice and slow, forward and back. You want it to give time for the adhesion of the foil. And now we've got these great images. So I'm going to do this a couple more times. There's those other separate leaves up there above on my work surface. I'm going to also do those. I think I actually ended up foiling more flowers than I need, but I tend to like to do that because I don't want to have to come back and do that later. That drives me nutty. So I'm going to do this 3 more times, getting more of these images, just doing the same thing, running it through the die cut machine, and then we have these great foiled images. Now I'm going to use the coordinating dies to die cut all of these images out, and they kind of line up right on the foiled image. So if you're going to use the die cuts, just kind of get your image centered in the die. It will cut off some of the gold foiling that you did on the outside edge. So as long as you get it centered, you will be perfectly fine. Now here is that Copic marker. This is R30, and I'm just adding a little bit of color in the center, and I'm just kind of tracing the lines of the flowers. I'm not actually even doing coloring, I would say. And I'm going to do the same pink on the leaves. Everything just to give it a little bit more of a color, even though I'm sure on camera it's really hard to see. R30 is a really pale pink. Super, super pretty, but in person you can see that there's just a little something there, just a little bit of a shadow and a little bit of a hint of color. Okay, so now I have my flowers and leaves lined up, and I'm just going to pop up the center one with foam tape along with those leaves. Both of those will be popped up with some foam tape. I'm just going to adhere that right behind that one flower and then add some foam tape behind the leaves. The other ones will be adhered directly to the background with some liquid glue. And because it's such slick paper, I don't know, it seemed to take a little bit longer for the glue to dry than normal, so just be careful of that. And I'm just using my reverse tweezers. I'm using Barely Art glue to adhere that in place. And I'm just going to tuck it under that other rose and leaf. And this is just adding our flowers to this beautiful, beautiful wreath. I didn't feel like I needed to color the Glimmer Hot Foil leaves with green. That's why I kept them like that light white pink color, but obviously you could do that, and I think that would still be absolutely beautiful. Then I've got the sentiment. This is from Tailored Expressions, and it says, "And they lived happily ever after." I thought this would be a beautiful wedding card. Very different, but very pretty. Then I'm going to finish the card with gold foil confetti from Studio Katya, and I just sprinkled a few of those around. And again, this is a 5x7 card. This panel is trimmed down slightly smaller, and the card base is a white 5x7 card base. And this card is finished. I hope that you enjoyed this project. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button and hit all so you don't miss a video. Like, comment, and share. I love chatting with you guys in the comments. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.